list of 32 ambassadorial nominees is drawing sharp criticism across the country. The long-awaited appointments were expected to fill a 2-year vacuum in Nigeria's foreign missions. Well, instead, they've ignited widespread disappointment over the caliber, the credibility, and regional balance of the list. Many Nigerians question the sustainability of nominees linked to former governors, arguing that their only qualification appears to be political loyalty. Regional groups also raised alarms. The Coalition of Northern Groups described the list as evidence of growing imbalance under Tinubu. Critics say the distribution undermines the federal character principle and fuels perceptions of political patronage. Concerns also extend to capacity. Diplomacy experts warn that several nominees, including Okhai, Fani Kayode, lack diplomatic experience, for example. The African Democratic Congress added a fresh layer of controversy. They condemned the nomination of former INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakubu just 2 years after overseeing that election that brought Tinubu to power. Well, for more analysis on President Tinubu's ambassadorial nominees and what it says about Nigeria's foreign policy, we have Global Affairs analyst Dr. Victor Okhai joining us now on Newsday. Always great to have you here with us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Well, this seems to be the Christmas present that Nigerians weren't expecting so early, the 32 interesting names of ambassadors. What do you make of the criticisms that have been given? What do you make of some of the names and the impact of our international image?
I'm worried, and I'll tell you why I'm worried. First, I'm a Nigerian, and this, and the times that we're in, makes me even more worried. If we look at that list, it tells a lot. First, there are more non-career diplomats than career diplomats. You have 17 non-career, over 15 career diplomats. So it tells you that the focus is not really about diplomacy. Okay? And then secondly, you want to ask yourself, what is the quality of people that you have sent there? Who is an ambassador? The ambassador is the representative of the president in the country, or the mission that he is representing. He's the voice of the president in that place. Okay, whether it's at the AU, the UN, in Russia, in the USA, Germany, or wherever. Thirdly, in the country where that ambassador is, he's like the president of all Nigerians there. Okay? Again, as an ambassador, it is his job to, apart from to smoothen relationships, improve relationships between these countries, and also see how they can improve trade, between these countries, and if possible get, as we are right now, looking for foreign direct investment into Nigeria. But when you look at that list, that brings to mind the issue of capacity that you talked about. I'll talk about cronyism later, but let's look at capacity. What's the capacity of these people? What qualifies them to handle these positions? And that's where the issue of cronyism comes in, because what it does appear like is like it's just settlement. And again, the main reason why I'm also worried is because you recall at a point in time, we're saying that the government would say that Africa is the centerpiece of Nigeria's diplomacy, or foreign policy, rather, foreign policy, which meant that everything we did was Afrocentric. We would always look at Africa. So our decisions were always based on that. Now you want to say to yourself, what times are we in right now? What are our priorities as a country? If it is important that if our image is important to us, our economy is important to us, we must get the very best, to be able to go out there and negotiate for us. Several years ago, I read something on, Reader's Digest. They have this anecdote out there. It said, who is a diplomat? So that person who is able to tell you to go to hell and you look forward to the trip. Mm-hmm. Which means they say it in such a nice way. Yes. But if you look at the team that we have right now, you find people who are uncouth in their language, who don't have diplomatic finesse in their carriage, in their talk. If they tell you to go to hell, you will actually give them a punch, because they can't couch it in a way that will make you look forward to the trip, in a manner of speaking. Okay, so this gets me worried. So it looks like what the president is doing is just filling in spaces. It's like, okay, who is left? This one has been disturbing me. Okay, you go there. I'll push you there. I'll make you an ambassador. That's exactly what we have right now. Is that what Nigeria needs at this moment? And then finally, let me speak about Mahmoud. It is worrying. It's not tidy. No matter how qualified he is, he's not the most qualified person. Okay? It is not tidy. It doesn't speak well. What it just simply tells me, particularly the three musketeers that have been singled out of the whole group, Reno, Fanikayode, and Mahmoud, they appear like hatchet men who have to be settled. It may not be the case, but you know as well as I do that perception is stronger than reality in most cases, because you're not going to be in every room to explain what your reasons are for picking these people. And so the public perception is also very important. So right now, the perception out there with the general public is that it's time to settle people who have done hatchet work for the government. And it's worrying.
Well, definitely it's worrying, but then I'm wondering in what ways, could choosing such politically exposed person, in what ways could it undermine our foreign service? And then also, the list has been criticized as favoring the Southwest region. So what measures can be taken to ensure a more balanced representation of regions and expertise in future ambassadorial nomination, as this most likely, will be passed by the Senate?
Okay, I'm sorry to say this because I'm not a bigot, and I would not like to talk about languages, but what they're even talking about Southwest is even worse. Grace Bent is Adama, but she's Yoruba. You know that as well as I do. The Kwara candidate, you know as well as I do, is Yoruba. They are not Southwest. So, in fact, it's not just the 9 they're talking about. We're talking about 11 or perhaps even more. It's even worse. This is why there's a need to be sensitive about these matters. Because we're setting a dangerous precedence, and if the next president comes from another region and does even worse, there's a precedence already. That's what makes me worried about all this. There are enough people qualified. I think there's a need to just temper this a bit. Create a bit of balance so that it doesn't appear so obvious. I tell you, it's so bad that even people from the Southwest right now are very uncomfortable, with the way things are going. And I think the president should listen and should be sensitive and should handle this country. The elections have long been over. He should be the father of everybody and should respect the Constitution. If they talk about federal character, which is what it talks about, there are enough qualified people in every state and across all the regions of this country.
And earlier we were talking about the important, crucial posts for some of these nominees. Initially, it was thought the U.S., the U.K., and France. But there's also positions like the United Nations in New York, the African Union in Addis Ababa, and other key critical nations. What should be considered? Because those haven't been set in stone yet. For those who might be listening and still have some influence, what should be considered in terms of who gets put to these critical places and why?
I think that worst case scenario, put the career ambassadors there.
Yes.
Because they would know how to handle things in a manner of speaking diplomatically. Okay? Permanent positions like UN permanent rep and EU, AU, ECOWAS, because we have permanent representatives in this, we're supposed to have in this place. We should have seasoned diplomats. Major countries and trading partners like China, Russia, Germany, and the rest should have. The rest of them can go to, every country is equal, they're all sovereigns, but we can send them to Cambodia, to Palestine, and to other places, as the case may be, where for your information, it's not just 32. There were about 190 ambassadors were recalled. So this is just the first tranche. We're still going to see many more, but we'll have to wait and see where these ones are posted to. But I think that, for people who are not diplomatic in their attitude, in their manner of speaking, and in the way they are perceived generally, they should go to places where they will cause little trouble for us as a nation.
What mechanism do you think will be used to measure the performance of these new nominees when they are eventually confirmed, and how often should their impact be reviewed?
Okay, I've never been in a position to do that, but if I were in a position to do that, they're going to be obviously, each country is unique, okay? What do we want from each country? There are countries, for instance, where there may be trade imbalance. We want to say, okay, look, can you address that? Which means your focus may be in that area. We may be looking at technology from certain places. In certain other places, we may just be looking at the kind of influence, how we can influence them in when we go to in the African Union, for instance, our ambassadors in various countries, when we're taking decisions, we want to be able to influence presidents of those countries, be friendly with them, and get them to be on our side.
Yes.
Okay? So there are KPIs that are going to be given and measured against, and each one is going to be unique based on what we want to gain. But the question is, does the government even think, do they even know what they want from these various countries? You know, do they even know what, you know, because I think they've just appointed them. And I'm not even sure that you find situations where you go to these countries and then you go to your embassy and they're treating you like like, you know, and you're a Nigerian. You should feel free going to your country. When I say your country, the embassy, that's a safe place for you. We've seen cases where our people are abandoned, you know, when there are crises and all that. I think they should be measured against how they handle these matters as well. And beyond issues like technology, the relationship, business and all that, even cultural diplomacy, that is also very, very important. How are we able to promote our culture in these places? And, you know, there are lots of areas to look at, but we need to be able to define what we want for each of these regions and each of these countries and give those assignments to the various people that are going to handle them. But finally, before I say so, I think it's also important in taking people to places to be able to find out how much influence they already have in such places. There are people who have friends in certain countries. When they get there, they're like fish in water. And so it's easy, they blend, and then they're able to make things work, smoothing relationships between the countries.
Well said. And, you know, given the security and political crises that have rocked these ECOWAS countries in the last couple of months, years, what can the appointments or lack thereof to key Western and African Union missions tell us about the actual priority level of the Tinubu administration's Afrocentric policy?
Okay, let me put it, we will have to see who are posted to these places. But more important than that is the kind of relationship the president will be having with his ambassadors. Mm-hmm. Because if you just appoint people and you're not getting feedback from them, it's useless. Mm-hmm. If they can't give you feedback, and if you also, because many of these embassies have been starved before now, you don't appoint people and then leave them out there. They can't maintain those embassies, they can't maintain the staff, which is why sometimes they get irritated and treat Nigerians anyhow, in a manner of speaking. So it's important that the communication, the line between them and perhaps the foreign ministry is open. Not that you appoint people and then you cut them off and they cannot reach you. And so you have diplomats, you have ambassadors, but you cannot, you know, there's no communication between you and them in relationship with those countries until you're visiting. Then they begin to do the work of houseboys, trying to make sure that things are worked out and all protocol is observed.
Our Global Affairs Analyst, Dr. Victor Okhai, it's been a very interesting discussion with you.
We don't want glorified houseboys in our embassies. Thank you.
Don't want that.
Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you.